What's up, veterans, military? For those of y'all who are in the VA disability claims process and you've been thinking about how to secondary sleep apnea VA claims, tune in. I got something for y'all. So first off, we got sleep apnea secondary to GERD. I'll leave the citation in which I found right there. Me. And this veteran, secondary sleep apnea to GERD due to history of esophagitis and hermatitis, whatever the fuck. The history of esophagitis and another, throat condition. But that veteran had 3 nexus letters from his treating physician plus 2 additional doctors, and this physician was a VA medical physician, his primary care provider, which is very rare with VA medical providers. All 3 doctors' opinion that sleep apnea was more than likely aggravated by his already service-connected GERD. And they did that by numerous tests, evaluations, as well as backed it up with medical literature. The veteran was denied on that claim. Then when he submitted for that Board of Veteran Appeals, along with all his medical evidence from his treating physician, the nexus letter that he was provided from his treating physician plus 2 other doctors at the VA Medical Center, along with medical literature, history, and this specific veteran's medical history, showed that due to his service-connected GERD, he could not treat his sleep apnea. Sometime afterwards, or around the same time, doesn't matter when he was diagnosed with sleep apnea, it showed that his service-connected GERD was causing sleep apnea, and it was causing it even more because he couldn't treat the sleep apnea with a CPAP machine due to episodes of GERD. He'd be sleeping, GERD and a CPAP machine does not mix. And that was the main takeaway from this case, because the veteran's VA disability appeal, they was able to show and medically illustrate the veteran's service-connected GERD impacted his ability to treat sleep apnea. If he has serious GERD, or if you have serious GERD and it's causing you to have all these episodes of acid reflux during the night, of course you don't want to have a CPAP machine because it's going to simulate that drowning feeling. You know what I'm talking about? But hey, that's a possible secondary that you can tack on sleep apnea. Second, we got sleep apnea being caused by your already service-connected allergic rhinitis or chronic sinusitis, both of which there's extensive medical literature that supports sinus and nasal issues causing not a correlation, causing a veteran or an individual to experience sleep apnea, especially sinuses. Weakens the throat. Sinus, it goes through all throughout the head, the nasal canal, throat, esophagitis, whatever. I ain't a doctor, esophagitis, whatever the case may be. But it goes all through in there. And then rhinitis is all with the nasal activity. So if you're experiencing sinus issues at night in your throat and in your nose, on top of that is being impacted by your rhinitis, is going to cause sleep apnea. That's definitely something you need to work with your doctor. I know a few veterans who were able to service connect, secondary sleep apnea to both allergic rhinitis and chronic sinusitis, utilizing both as the primary or the direct causation of sleep apnea. Submit a secondary for 2 service-connected claims, 3 service-connected disabilities, doesn't matter. As long as your medical evidence supports that, the sky's the limit. Then we got third. My personal favorite, not really my personal favorite, but y'all know what I'm talking about. PTSD sleep apnea secondary to PTSD. The way you do this, obviously you got to assess yourself, work with your doctor. The medication in which most doctors treat for PTSD causes the veteran individuals to stress eat. That stress eating in turn turns to excessive weight gain. That excessive weight gain is it's the VA doesn't recognize, or medical professionals don't recognize it as excessive weight gain. They recognize it as obesity. So the medication has caused you to become obese now, medically obese. And what that means is that obesity and the extra layers of fat and whatever the hell in and around your throat, your neck, get the fat neck now. That causes for sleep apnea to incur. So that's a direct causation of your service-connected PTSD. A lot of veterans don't know the science behind it, but you gotta follow the science. There's a science to it, to everything. PTSD, you're service-connected for a mental health disability. Okay, cool. That mental health disability, you're taking medication to treat that issue. That medication that you're being treated for PTSD is causing you to stress eat, which is causing you to gain weight, which is now you're obese, which has now caused sleep apnea. You don't need to understand that medical causation. However, if you work with your treating physician, either at a VA medical facility or private medical, build that medical evidence. I'm talking about sleep apnea secondary to low back strain, knee issues, plantar fasciitis, pars planus, whatever the case may be. Almost the same thing as PTSD, however, it's different. More than likely, if you're service-connected for any of these issues, pretty much lower from your low back to your feet, if you're having a mobility issue, service-connected, you're not as active anymore. It's causing you to gain weight because, of course, you're not being as active as you were while you was in the military. So, with that increased weight gain, it's putting pressure on your joints, as well as it's causing you to gain weight. Obviously, in the esophageal, in your throat, neck area, as well as everywhere else. Factors: the weight gain, the weight gain equates to obesity, which in turn contributes towards a veteran having signs and symptoms of sleep apnea. So I definitely recommend, if you have any limitation issues on your low back strain, hip strain, hip issues, knee issues, any limitation of flexion, extension, plantar fasciitis, pars planus, ankle, whatever case. If it's a mobility issue that's causing you to be less physically active, which is in turn causing you to gain weight, you can utilize that as a secondary intermediate step towards sleep apnea. Definitely, once again, you got to work with your treating physician, doctor, physical therapist, whatever the case may be. Get into medical. A lot of veterans fall short by not going to medical. When you don't go to medical, you don't have the medical evidence needed to show causation for these high-value VA claims, especially when you're trying to file secondary. A lot of veterans can't get sleep apnea direct service connection. Why? Because we never went to medical for it. I didn't. I'm sure 98% of y'all haven't either. So there's different methods, different steps, different routes we can all take in order to get sleep apnea service connected if it applies to you. Hey, until next time, this motherfucker, fuck y'all out. Hey, y'all stay Gucci with it.